morning, everybody. Happy new week. I hope you are doing amazing and had a wonderful weekend here in Australia. Spring has sprung as of yesterday, the 1st of September. And I can see over in Canada, which is our guest, freshly hot off the press published author Zoë MacBean. You look still very beautiful and sunny there. Is the weather still really nice?
Really sunny. It's absolutely gorgeous. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect Labor Day weekend.
Oh, beautiful. So you guys have a long weekend, as we like to call it over there. So it's currently Sunday afternoon over in Canada. And I said to Zoe, it's the backdrop is just absolutely stunning. And we might hear a couple of dogs barking here and there, but that's exactly what we're talking about here, because Zoe's book is exactly related to that. So I'm going to show you guys the cover up close. Housetraining That Works is Zoe's book, and it's just hot off the press. We were just checking if it had been released for distribution out through Amazon and all that sort of stuff, but we'll tell you more about that later. But let me give you the official introduction. I'll get stuck into some of the hot tips and, you know, insights of Zoe's journey of writing this book. So, guys, Zoë MacBean is an eclectic dog trainer with over 35 years of experience who believes that there are no stubborn dogs, just those that have become reliable in all the wrong ways. With a touch of eccentricity and a perpetually scruffy look, Zoe's unique upbringing in a college psychology lab might explain her unconventional approach. When she isn't training dogs, Zoe can be found cooking, gardening, or having hay picked out of her hair by her very patient husband. She lives in a small farm on Vancouver Island with a quirky little blue dog, a foolish young setter, three lazy semi-retired pack goats, too many sheep, and a very handsome mule. I love that. I love your humor, Zoe. Always put a smile on our faces. So congratulations, you made it. The book is there with you, right?
I'm even mostly hay free.
I love it. So tell me then, how long had you been considering writing this book? Obviously your experience is extensive across so many years.
I almost don't want to say. The book actually started as a joke that was meant to be in the back of a fiction novel. And my trainer friends and I used to just make this joke about, you can't write a book about house training. Like, what do you tell them? It's like, page 1, don't let them pee in the house. Like, end of book. Like, it's the rest is just fluff, right? It's like, okay, well, I can stretch it to like 6 lines, and then, well, I might be able to teach a 1-hour workshop on it. Turns out I can teach a 3-hour workshop on it, and then it turns out that there's enough to that to make a book. But what actually made me write the book instead of just procrastinating about it was actually that little workshop you gave. And I have to admit, I signed up for the workshop. I wasn't going to actually attend. I would just watch the replay, you know, because they always had your replay. And then an actual live person called me and said, have you got everything you need for the workshop? And I'm thinking, what do I need for a free workshop? You're like, they're going to pitch me from the stage for 45 minutes, give me 2 nuggets of wisdom, and, you know, I'll yawn my way through it. And it turns out, okay, it's like 3 hours. You spent a few minutes saying who you were, almost no time selling me anything, and the rest of it was solid information. And then there was something that stuck really hard. Like, it hit so, like, I felt it as a almost physical pain, is that you said that 70% of people say they want to write a book someday, but only 3% of them will do it. And I went, ow. And then a few minutes later, you said something worse. By the way, I think that number is actually, I think the number is even smaller, because if you're talking about nonfiction.
I'll remind you of it. Let me remind you of it. 92% of adults want to write a book, yet 0.1% ever do it.
Yeah. And I would say nonfiction even fewer, because, you know, if you're writing fiction, you can have plot holes you could sink a truck in, but you're you know, if you're uncomfortable writing some things, if you're writing a romance novel and you're not comfortable writing about sex, you know, you can end with an innuendo in the bedroom door closing. But if you're writing a book about how to check the gap on a spark plug, you can't just say, well, you open the hood and then, you know, and then leave them hanging. Like, you have to be able to, right? So I think maybe it's even smaller. And then a little later in that same presentation, you said, the only thing that takes longer than writing a book is not writing a book. And I carefully pulled out my notes and realized to my horror that I'd written the date that I'd started it. And it was 12 years. So this book took 13 and a half years to write. And it's done. So that's what made me write the book. I just didn't want to be, I wanted to be one of the 3%, right? So what
I always ask myself that question. How can I, because so many, these stats apply to many things in our lives, isn't it? Like they say that 97% of people don't set goals, and the 3% they do have a higher net worth than the 97% they don't. Or like there's such big percentages. You always need to ask yourself that question: how can I be in the tiny little percentage that actually follows through on particular things in our lives? So tell us a little bit more. Yeah, absolutely. Tell us a little bit about the book. Like, what's in it? Like, is it obviously for puppies, targeted at the puppies?
Not really. Actually, it's a house training book for all ages and breeds, because there's plenty of dogs that arrive in your life unhouse trained. A lot of people will get a dog, say, from the shelter, or a dog who's been in a kennel all its life, and they need house training too. What it's really targeted at is everyone that doesn't just have a brand new puppy from an ideal background, living in a 3-bedroom house in suburbia with all the time in the world to take a puppy out. Right? Most training books for puppies are designed, they assume that you have all those things. And you know, what happens if you just got a puppy and then you got a cancer diagnosis? You know, what happens if your elderly parent suddenly needs care? What happens if you have physical challenges? What happens if you have a teacup poodle and you live in Alberta and there's snowstorms and it's not safe to let the puppy out? Right? When I was house training my last puppy, a very real concern was grizzlies. Right? Wow. So like, right? Like, I lived in an area where the wolves actively hunt dogs. Like, this is not covered in most of the books. But the main target of the book is for people to understand that house training isn't just about getting them not to go to the bathroom in the house. People always think, oh, well, I'll just get them house trained and then I'll do the real training, you know, once we've got that out of the way. Well, by the time the dog's house trained, they've learned so much you didn't want them to know. You know, now they're 6 months old and it's a lot harder. And I want people to start thinking that the house training is it's the first step in your training relationship. And so much more is happening there than anyone ever knows. So if your average pet owner takes a puppy outside, they know you take them outside, they go to the bathroom, you should say, good dog, and you bring them back in. And that's great. The mission accomplished, the dog is now peed outside. But your average trainer will, by the time they've taken the puppy out of a crate, put its collar on, taken it out to go to the bathroom, and brought it back inside, they've shaped 10 other behaviors without even knowing they're doing it. So this is my attempt to bridge the gap between the way trainers do it and the way your average pet owner does it, and give you a leg up on training. So by the time they're house trained, they actually pretty much know all the other stuff too. There.
What are some of the other things? Because like us lay people who haven't learned all the training, like we only think it's about going to the toilet, right? So what are 2 or 3 other things that are important?
So in the time that it takes you to take a puppy out, we can start teaching them to wait at doors. We can start teaching them how to put their own collars on. We can start teaching them to keep their feet on the ground and not jump up. We can start teaching them self-restraint, right? And we can start teaching them that you are a source of all good things, including relief. And also, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, I hope this isn't TMI. I was a competitive power lifter for a while. And the only way that your records will stand is if you're willing to drug test. And that means you have to get really comfortable peeing in front of a stranger. Okay?
Right.
I will tell you right now, that is not a comfortable thing to do. Okay? So if you have a dog with a history of punishment, right, where someone scolded them for going to the bathroom, or even just like, oh, not again, right, that dog is going to have a hard time going to the bathroom in front of you, which then makes it even harder for them to get empty, right? So there's a huge amount of trust that is built just in that, look, I'm going to stand here, you do your thing, and the sky will not fall. In fact, it's a good thing. Okay, so dog gets a cookie, I get it, I could have a gold medal, right? That's how it worked.
I love it. I love it. I have one situation that happened this morning just before we jumped on this call. So I'm at the moment babysitting my mum's dog. She's in Europe for a month, and she's 6 years old. She's a miniature poodle. And
Okay.
it's funny that this happened this morning before our interview, because I'm talking to the expert now. You can tell me.
Oh,
So
great.
outside of the office door that you can see. So she's
Yeah.
fully house trained and all that. She peed in front of my door. Okay, on the carpet,
Yeah.
as you can see. What does that mean? Like, it's like the doors are open. She knows she lets herself out. Like, you know,
Yeah.
she's got to in and out. Well, what's that behavior?
That's anxiety. Your mom's
Anxiety.
away. She needs to
Yeah.
be, the closest thing she has to your mom is you. She would
Yes,
really,
yeah.
really, really like, you've given her a little bit too much space. So what happens is
Yeah.
when you give a teeny tiny little dog a huge amount of space, like, oh, she'll have lots of room to run around. She'll be comfortable here. And what she's
Yeah.
saying is, this is terrifying. Okay. We
Uh-huh.
upright primates quite like things that are open, like open floor plan houses. We all love those because we can see the predators coming.
Mm.
Little tiny teacup poodles say, I have no safe space to hole up and defend my position. Okay. So so the way we whistle in the dark when we're scared, you know, we might, if we're watching a scary movie, we'll whistle in the dark, turn the lights on. Okay. They turn the smells on. So she just said, this, like, I'm going to get as close to my secondary person as I can, but I'm going to make this smell safer to me. There you go.
Got it. Very interesting. It's so interesting that it happened this morning, half an hour before I interview. I've had her now for nearly 3 weeks.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so it's
give her a little bit less room, she'll be fine. Yeah, it has nothing to do with needing the bathroom and everything to do with feeling nervous because your mom's away, and nothing to do with malice, revenge, or spite. They actually don't have enough of a prefrontal cortex to plan things like that. So
yeah. So what you're saying is, like, your book, it's never too late, right? To you know,
oldest dog I've ever house trained is 17 years. Youngest was about, you know, I've worked with dogs from about 6 weeks and up. And actually, when you're raising litters of puppies, we're pretty much starting them at about the moment their eyes open. So by 3 weeks of age, dogs can be showing a tactile preference for where they go to the bathroom. But the oldest unhouse trained dog I've ever worked with is 17 and a half.
Wow.
Yep.
Yes. And do you do this work like face to face, or could you help someone even online?
Oh yeah, absolutely online. It's actually really easy to do. Sometimes I need video of the way the house is laid out to understand where the problem is, because I need a dog's eye view of what we're seeing.
Yes. Yeah. And so, and then you can kind of talk them through, and then you would have subsequent meetings to just review what they're doing.
Absolutely. There's pretty good diagnostics in the book, little checklists where you can self-diagnose. Sometimes it takes a phone call to say, yeah, no, this is what's happening.
Yeah, love it. And tell me, what are your intentions with the book? Like, what do you hope? Like, you have some connections with other associations there in Canada. What's the next, now that the book is fresh, hot off the press?
I actually wrote it as an evergreen book to prevent problems with puppies, but also to save lives. So it's not that house training is the worst problem out there. It's the easiest one to fix without professional help. So if you're dealing with aggression or serious leash pulling or, you know, predatory behaviors, all of those, you really need help with that. Okay, the people can get hurt if we're dealing with resource guarding or aggression or reactivity with other dogs. But, and you know, chewing, digging, and barking are more management issues. But house training is still, to this day, in the top 10 reasons why dogs will be surrendered either to a shelter or returned to the breeder or rehomed. Most shelters will tell you that we're moving is code for house training problems or aggression. So it's still in the top 10 behaviors that will get a dog put down, really. And it's so preventable. It's so fixable. So what I'm really, really hoping is making that, because so there are house training books out there that tell you how to house train a puppy. But this one handles shelter dogs. This one looks into the background and takes a deeper dive into why you might be having problems. So my number one reason for writing this book is because the information needs to be out there so we don't lose any more dogs to this entirely fixable problem. Number two is for it to be an evergreen product that goes out with shelter adoptions and goes out with puppy packs. Like when someone buys a puppy from a breeder, they put a deposit down, the book goes home so they can read it before the puppy comes home. And a portion of those proceeds are going to be going to the shelters. Like I've already picked the shelter that $1 from each copy will be going to a shelter in New Orleans that I just adore the work that they do. And that leaves me quite a bit of wiggle room to run this as fundraisers for sporting dog clubs, for shelters, humane societies, all of that. So yeah, I have, yes, I want the information out there, but I think this book can do a lot of good as well.
Yeah, I love that purpose, and how you kind of have a number of reasons why you've done it, and I think it's such a beautiful cover as well. I think it's super cute. Yeah, I mean, when I became a mum for the first time, I was desperate because my son wouldn't sleep, and I remember telling you this story, and that's how we got this idea of you having a little stamp on your book. I picked up the book that said I was going to have results in less than 48 hours, and I literally spent afternoon reading it and then implementing all the steps, which what you're saying is with your book going into new puppy packs, so taking it home before the puppy comes. I would highly recommend anyone like to do the pre-reading. Otherwise then you get frazzled when it's already home. You're like, what am I doing? You come from that perspective.
That's also why we put a quick start guide in it. And like it was Stuart's idea to put like the little medallion on there, but it was a friend of mine that said, but if it's on the shelf and it's not facing forward, they won't see it. And so we also put it on the side.
I love it.
I thought that was genius. She gets a free copy for that.
I love it. And I know you've got more books you're going to write. Are they going to be related to this topic, or what's the next? Yes.
Logically, the next one should be the first 90 days with a puppy. But to do that, I kind of wanted to have just raised a puppy, or to be raising another litter of puppies. So I might actually jump ahead to the teen dog thing. I taught a really nice workshop on I called it Teen Dog Sur-thrival, and it was very well received, and I have all my notes from that, and we might go to that. There's another one I call Design Your Own Dog, which is designed to help people who live in areas where there aren't a lot of training options available to go from, instead of your basic sit down, stay, he'll come, to sky's the limit, and to know what those upper levels of training are and how to get there if there isn't anyone qualified nearby. And that comes directly out of my 20 years in a very isolated area where I still thought my training was 10 years out of date, but I was 30 years ahead of anybody else in town. So kind of wanted to, find a way to access those resources.
I love it. What age is the teenage years for a dog?
Well, it depends on the breed of dog, but anywhere from about 5 months to 2 years. Okay. And some dogs, if you get a rescue that's been living in horrendous conditions, they might be 3 or 4 years old, but if they've been locked in that since they were a puppy, they sometimes go through a second adolescence. It's like you need to go back and re-puppy them, right? And if you're not careful, they'll get stuck at where they were when they first got locked up. I've been done quite a few rescues and large scale rescues where we end up with dogs that just like, obviously you were chained up at 4 months and you're still there, so they need to be brought forward.
Yeah, beautiful. Any other common things that you see within dogs that normal people wouldn't like kind of be aware of, that are like common challenges?
It's the there's I call it the Uncle Fred syndrome, where you start getting advice from Uncle Fred and the guy at the store, and you should do this, and everyone has an opinion about dogs. And I often say the only thing that 2 trainers can agree on is the third one's doing it wrong, right? So I would say one of the biggest pitfalls is not advocating for your own dog and believing in yourself. So sort of like with parenting, you can be made to doubt everything. So you might have something in mind. So learning to advocate for your dog. So most classes you go into, if you go to a group class, they'll teach you how to, now we're going to learn to sit, right? Cookie in the air and bum goes on the ground, and we teach them how to sit. And the first thing that you'll learn in my class is how to say, no, thank you, I'm not comfortable with that. Okay. Like I want people to be comfortable saying no when I ask something like, do you mind if I demo with your dog? Like I'll test them on it. Because again and again, when I get called in as a private trainer, I get told a story of regret. I wish I hadn't taken the leash off. I wish I hadn't fed that thing that my neighbor said. I wish I hadn't punished my dog for X. So a little bit getting very heart-centered and very focused on what your end goal is in mind. Begin as you mean to go on, and be very careful about letting anyone else make decisions for you about your dog's health, about their food, about their training. Okay. Like that. I know I should be saying, well, these are the things you should train, but really it's start believing in your own ability to make decisions when you're parenting a dog as much as when you're parenting a child.
Absolutely. I agree. And what a hot tip. I think that's a really, trust yourself, and you'll kind of have this relationship and bond and communication with them, which I know my mum does with Ruby, because you know, she just knows exactly what she needs, how she's feeling, what's going on. It's it's a very beautiful to watch. You know, they don't have to talk to us, right? There's a couple of comments here. Well, Louise is saying, got to get this ASAP. So she obviously might have like a challenging dog. A few people saying good morning, Lisa. Antonia's watching, Mandy, Vicky, and Jules. Jules, that's our Nina. She is a rescue dog and didn't have a nice time at all before she moved in with us. She's such a good dog, though. So it must be when we were talking about being maybe changed and stuff like that.
If
I
was going to say, if I had one more thing, it would be to remember that dogs are always learning whether you want them to or not. So you begin as you mean to go on. Do not allow them to rehearse anything you don't want them to get better at.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So like if you've got a, you know, Rottweiler puppy, no one is going to want that thing jumping up on them. So that needs to be a focus. If you have a Tibetan Spaniel, which is, I'm looking after 8 of them right now, no one's going to care if the dog jumps up. Okay. But they are going to care if it pees on them. Right. So you just have to be aware that practice makes permanent. And if you don't want to be chasing your puppy down the road, then don't allow your puppy to be off leash at any distance from you. Right. You have to be able to get hold of them, which is why I use drag lines, and that's in the book too. Yay. So prevent rehearsal of unwanted behaviors.
How do you make them stop jumping on you? Like I do, mum's dog's very excitable, very energetic. Obviously in the morning when she sees us, you know, and she gets a little scratchy, you know, her little nails get into you, you know, on your legs. What's one hot tip I can try? I still have her for another 2 weeks.
All right. Do you have a really lightweight leash kicking around?
Yes.
Okay, attach it to her collar, let it drag it around the house. A little cat leash will do. And when she runs up to you, step on the leash. Just step on it. And so she'll hit the end of the leash. She'll go like, oh, it's not working. And you can pretend like, oh, aren't you a good dog? You can look at the sky though until her feet are on the ground. So, oh, what a good dog. Look at you not jumping up. And you can bend down and pet her there. Right. I don't worry much about jumping up. Frankly, it doesn't bother me, but it would bother me if my dogs jumped up on someone they didn't know. Right.
Yeah.
Because that's rude.
Yeah.
Okay. Jumping up on me. Yeah. I don't actually care.
It's cute. Right? Yeah, and she doesn't do it on strangers generally, but she's excitable about us, and she's only a little dog, so it's not a scary kind of thing.
You can also, when you see her coming, get more down to her level. It also helps to stuff a toy in their mouth, like a favorite toy. So instead of jumping up on you, they'll most likely turn away from you slightly because they don't really want you to have it.
Yeah. I love it.
And keeps their feet on the ground.
So let's talk about the writing of the book. Obviously, you took a little bit longer than the standard 3 to 4 months, but I know you really enjoyed the process. Talk to me about the process, the support, and all that in writing.
Well, the support's been unbelievable. Like, I never felt alone in the process. I always knew that when I surfaced, there would be someone there instantly to throw me a lifeline if I needed it. Okay. And boy, I needed a few, right? I would say the first thing is to know your process and embrace it, right? Like I know what I need. For instance, I'm never writing a book without giant Post-it notes. Okay. They're always with me. My hotel room was covered in these.
Yeah.
I choose my hotel room for retreats based on wall space. Okay. Also, I gotta have sharp. Yeah, did you know you can even put smaller Post-it notes on big Post-it notes? Like, I very
actually, the first time in my life I have learned about giant Post-it notes, and I want to get some.
Oh, this is amazing. Give me, I don't care what the project is, if it's like moving a farm or it's starting a business or writing a book, just you need wall space and Post-it notes, and you need a lot of Sharpies. Okay. And you need at least one mega size one. I call that my big fat getting shit done pen. Because when you cross it out with that, it stays crossed out. All right. So for me, I need quiet, right? Well, I need the kind of quiet that means that no one that's making noise around me wants anything from me. And I just realized that I cannot do this at home. I can't. I need wooden tables. I need coffee. I need to know that I don't have to feed anybody else. I need to know that they can't find me. Okay. Yeah. Because the one thing that will kill the creative process is, oh, I don't mean to interrupt you, but okay. Yeah. Just forget it. So like, I know that if I have 4 hours blocked out for writing, it would be very easy to say I'm procrastinating if you saw me at the coffee shop, because the first thing I'll do is make sure that my appointment book is up to date. I will make sure that I've written in my bujo, that I've got my Sharpie going, dumping things out of my brain onto the page just to empty it out before I can start writing. So my process is that I start with an idea. I've got notes on a page that I dictated to Otter. I pretend I'm talking to an audience because I'm happy doing that. And then I'll start typing it. I used to love typewriters, but my typewriter broke. So thank God for because I can't write as fast as I can talk. And then I'll go through the transcript and I just start taking out all the ums, and then I break it into sections and break it into ideas. And then at some point I'll realize, I've got a toehold somewhere in there. I'll go, I can run with that. Right. And I'll just start typing and it all comes together. But I know the difference between my getting ready and clearing my decks versus procrastination. For somebody else, taking notes in their book and fiddling around might not be really getting ready. For instance, if my daughter ever comes upstairs and sees me doing housework on my own, she'll say, what are you procrastinating about? Because I don't like shoveling sheep crap. I'll do that, but cleaning a house voluntarily? Like, are you kidding me? I cook. I don't need to clean. It's somebody else's job, right? So you have to know what your process is and know what your actual prepping is. And all of those things, that ritual of there's my coffee, there's my clear horizontal surface, there's my note page to write down all of the stuff that jumps into your head. And I can actually say to her, you'll hear me mutter out loud. I'll go, yes, I hear you. Yes, you're important. I'll get back to you later. And I write it down. Right. And then I get back to work. And that's part of my process. And I just know that whatever your process is, honor it, embrace it, don't apologize for it, don't be embarrassed by it. It is what it is. And if what you need to do is go to a coffee shop somewhere else, not tell anyone where you are, and work for 4 hours straight, you can just go do that. Right? Yeah. So I have to do it. There's the process. There.
I love it. Good. I'm very proud of you. And I remember you telling me some of these things, and you discovered a coffee shop near your house that was just ideal, and you kept logging into some of our support calls from there.
Oh, it's brilliant. Yeah. And there's one that came as a real shock to me, is to understand that no one will defend your boundaries for you. No. Right? It was horrifying to me, because I thought, if somebody says, please don't use my favorite coffee cup, or I need to be alone, right, I won't bother them. But that the people who love you the most will walk right over top of your boundaries. And chances are it's because you've got a long behavior history of letting them. So you have to start getting a little ferocious. I came up with an expression. I apologize. You don't want to be too angry about it, but neither do you want them to steamroll. I turned to a friend lately and said, there's a lot of options in between dick and doormat. So maybe right down the middle.
Yeah, I love that. Beautiful. All right, let's share where people can get the book. Well, it's very easy to remember this website. I'm going to share it on my screen, you guys. here it is. It is housetrainingthatworks.com. Very, very easy to spell, normal spelling, house training that works. Obviously, it's the book's name and a .com only at the other end. You can get a copy. As Zoe said, there is a bonus quick start program if you really need some help very quickly. And of course, in a couple of weeks' time, this book will be distributed out on all your good online resellers, and there'll be a Kindle version. Right now, it's hot off the press, but you know, we're just signing off and cross-checking everything to make sure it's all there. And I can't wait, you know, to check out more of the hot tips inside, but also Zoe, for the subsequent books. I think it will be like a selection of books that people can pick up for a different age group and things like that. All right, great. Lindy's just shared the link also in this live stream. So if you have any questions for Zoe or want to ask her, you know, she also has another website that is directed to the training, the dog training. What was hang on, I'll pull it up because I have it here. Wingnut training, guys. Wingnuttraining.com is the other website. I'm just going to share that on the screen as well, Zoe, in case, you know, as she said, she can help people online. So let me just pull this back up. Here it is, Wingnut Training, and if you scroll down, she has a little bit about her services and lessons that she can do. So that's the alternative website. So one for the book and one for the dog training. Amazing. This has been so cool, Zoe. I can't wait to go get out there and try the leash thing and kind of have a bit more of an understanding about what happened just half an hour before this interview now. And it makes sense. Our house is very, very big compared to my mum's house. And actually, we really keep her contained more in one section where we close the door of the house, and she stays there. But I think this morning she had the whole run of the place, and my kids have been actually called off school today because crazy weather and winds, and it's dangerous apparently to go to school. So now the kids are as well at home. So it's been an interesting 24 hours with that here in Melbourne.
Yeah, her cortisol levels are pretty up there. So I did have one question I just wanted to leave people with, because, you know, I could talk about it forever, but it was something that popped into my head. It's, who is your book inviting you to become? And
I love that.
Right? Because I remember you telling me that it isn't so much about writing the book, it's who you become writing the book. And I've discovered that ideas have a little bit of a sentience about them. And if you've been hemming and hawing about your book, like the longer you've put off writing your book, I think the more challenges you can expect, because the idea wants a commitment from you and it will test you. So sometimes you just have to get really comfortable with the discomfort and treat it like a misogi, right? Like this is an event that will define your year. It will redefine what you consider possible, and just understand that sometimes you're going to have to kedge your way through it, which is that nautical thing where when you're stuck and you put your anchor in a boat and you row ahead and you drop the ankle and you pull yourself along, and it's going to feel like that sometimes. But who is your book inviting you to become? And once you know that, then you'll get it written.
I love it. I love it. We'll finish on that one, you guys. That's perfect. For anyone that wants to write a book, you know, that was an insight. I think Zoe's got such hot tips shared today. Process of writing, mindset about writing, obviously the dog training tips. I mean, this was filled with gold nuggets. So I wish you every success, Zoe, and we'll meet each other once again for when we're doing the next book and obviously reviewing us to where the first one has got to. So have an awesome week, everybody, and
thank you.
Smash it out. Bye, guys.